Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our third installment of the live streams for the salawat project in order to raise the ability to swim in an ocean of salawat. And I do believe that we have one more week left, but mashallah, we've already reached 1,500,000 just about salawat. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And that is really exciting because with 1 million, with just 1 million and that multiplied by 10, that means for all of you, everyone who has participated, you then that comes back to you and you receive that. So those 10 million salawat have come back to you. Alhamdulillah. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. It's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to have that ocean of the peace and blessings of a relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I would like to talk this week about what does it mean, or what do we learn? What do we learn from this man about interpretation of life? What is our worldview? And this is a month when we're saying Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad, and we are sending peace and blessings upon him. It's also a month that we are thinking about him and learning about him and trying to find a way to get closer to him and understand him and live a life that reflects his teachings. And so I want to look at two things. I want to look at one incident in the life of the Prophet ﷺ and the Quranic response to that. And I also want to just talk for a minute about our world's view about what we have and what we don't have. And that all goes together in the stories we're talking about today. We know that at one point, the Prophet ﷺ was given the meat of a goat. And Aisha radiallahu anha began to give it away to the poor and hungry of Medina, of which there were always many. And the Prophet ﷺ asked her, Ya Aisha, what remains? What remains of the goat? And she answered, Ya Rasulallah. She said that the shoulder remains, in speaking of the piece of meat. There's one piece of meat left, the shoulder, and that's what remains. And it's not part of the narration, but it's well known that the Prophet ﷺ used to like that piece of meat. So I think that perhaps Aisha radiallahu anha had purposely kept that piece of meat in order to share it with the Prophet ﷺ, in order for him to eat of something that he likes. In any case, the Prophet ﷺ responded to her and said, La ya Aisha. Instead say, what remains is the whole animal except for that one piece, which is no longer, which is a loss to us. It is no longer ours, which we don't benefit from. And so, in other words, he flipped the economic understandings that we live in today on their head. He just flipped them upside down. We say, if we have an amount of money, if someone gives you $1,000 and then you spend it, you give to the poor and you spend it on people that you love and you care for, and you still have, let's say you spend $700 and you still have $300. What will you say? You'll say, I only have $300 left. The Prophet ﷺ would say to you, no, you have $700 left. The money that you gave away, the money that you shared, the money that you gave to someone is what you have left. That is what is left in your hand. And what you are holding on to, or what you spent on yourself, is what is gone. So what you hold on to in your hand, or what you spent on yourself, therefore you have a piece of it in your hand, that is gone. And the money you spent on others is what you keep. Just for a moment, I want to pause and think about that together. What does that mean? Imagine if in our world we lived like this. Imagine if in our world we lived and thought that of the material things that we have and the money that we have, only that which we give away is actually what we keep. And we raced against one another, not in being rich in things, not in having fancier purses or shoes or cars or homes or electronics, but rather we raced against each other and how much we gave away and how much we supported projects lil khair, good projects of good and caring for people and feeding people and fighting against injustice and money for organizations for gun control, for example, or supporting the hashtag Black Lives Matter, or doing something with an organization that empowers women, a dawah organization, human beings, paying someone's rent, paying someone's, and not if they're just dirt poor. Do you know how many people out there that live a lifestyle that is maybe similar to yours are actually penny by penny counting their grocery money? It may be some of you. And or at the end of the month have just a few pennies in their bank account. These are not impoverished people. This is just the way they're living. They don't live the life of an impoverished person, perhaps, but they're living month to month. And imagine then what the world would be like if all of the people that are striving to compete in this world for having more defined having more by giving more. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. This is a man who taught us how to think differently. This is a man who taught us how to look at what we have and define that by that which is small, and look at what we're giving and look at that and what it should be great and is great. That's what we should be counting on. Not counting on what we have in the bank, but rather counting on what we're giving and truly trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to care for us. After that, and there's another place where the Prophet ﷺ turned our worldview around. And the first hadith that I talked to you about is really more to help us understand how the Prophet ﷺ turned our ideas on the head before we even had these ideas, especially in this capitalist society. And the second one is to go a little deeper. We now, I think, I don't know if you watch the news, certainly you do, and there's a lot of tragedy and a lot of darkness and a lot of pain, and there's a lot of oppression, and there are like what, 100 or something, couple hundred militiamen, white men in Oregon that have taken over a federal government, and they're being talked about as the peaceful protest. and with guns, they have guns, and they're being called a peaceful protest. And Muslims and young black men who do nothing or have a toy gun in a state where open carry is legal as a child, they're getting murdered for that. And Muslims are being told by Donald Trump that we are going to be blocked out and from the country and we're not Americans and all this other junk. And toddlers are on a no-fly list in Canada because of Muslim names. Subhanallah. Yeah, there you go. So with all of this, it feels overwhelmingly unfair. It feels overwhelmingly unfair. I think that you can all agree with me. It feels overwhelmingly unfair. And we look to the Prophet ﷺ and we ask ourselves, did he ever experience anything that seemed overwhelmingly unfair? And what was his response? And what do we have to learn from that? What should we be learning in this month of getting to know him? In this month of learning how to imitate his life? What do we have to learn? What do we have to learn? The Prophet ﷺ received revelation in the form of a dream where he saw himself at the Kaaba with a key in his hand. And he understood that he should go to Umrah. And so he did. And he went to Umrah expecting and telling the people that they would enter Mecca and go on Umrah. And they went without weapons. They went only with they went without weapons of war. They only went with the weapons of the road, which at that time people carried only weapons of the road, had weapons on the road. And when they reached Mecca, by the time they reached Mecca, the leaders of Quraysh had heard about their coming and decided that they're not going to let them in, going absolutely against a tradition and an expectation in the Arabian Peninsula that the Quraysh were fully generous and would let in all people of all tribes. They had economic motivations, but they also had dignity motivations that this is what they did. This is the kind of people that they were. The Muslims attempted to negotiate, including sending Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu in to speak. He was gone for so long that the Prophet ﷺ feared that he had been killed and that war was imminent. And at that time, there was great fear and concern. The Prophet ﷺ was very concerned about whether the Muslims would even stand with him. Think about that. Think about the concern he had. Would these Muslims who loved him and went on Umrah with him and were with him in Medina, he wondered if they would stand with him. Why did he wonder that? He wondered that partially because they went out with the intention of Umrah and they didn't have weapons. So he called them together and took another pledge from them. He took a pledge from them of loyalty and standing together in the face of whatever it was they would face. The Quraysh then sent out, instead of sending out an army, they sent out a negotiator and others with him. And they came to negotiate with the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. And they negotiated a treaty. This treaty, by all eyes, was an unfair treaty. It was unfair. It did not recognize the status of Muhammad ﷺ. It did not recognize the vocabulary of Muslims. At that time, Muslims already knew about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a name which was Ar-Rahman, the one of grace and most merciful one. When it was written on the paper, they said, we don't know who this Ar-Rahman is. Remove that. When Ali radiallahu anhu wrote on the paper, this is a treaty between the leaders of Quraysh and Muhammad Rasulullah, they said, if we admitted that you were Rasulullah, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Erase that. And Ali refused, radiallahu anhu. The Prophet said, show me where it is so that he could mark it out. That was humiliating, certainly. Imagine a leader today being told, if we agreed that you were the president of this country, we wouldn't be arguing with you. Erase that you're the president or leader. Yet, they continued. And the terms of agreement were also unfair, including the worst and most painful one, which was that anyone who was to escape from the Quraysh and come to the Muslims of Medina, they would have to be sent back. But anyone who would leave Medina and go to Quraysh as a non-believer, they could keep them. They wouldn't have to send them back. And in the middle of the treaty, just as the treaty was signed, one of those who had been imprisoned in Mecca escaped and came to, knowing that the Muslims were there, came to the camp hoping to receive asylum and to be saved. And this treaty had just been signed, and he was sent back to the arms and hands of those who had imprisoned and tortured him. And the Muslims around the Prophet ﷺ were devastated. And they felt it was terribly unfair. And even Umar ibn al-Khattab, who was a loyal companion of the Prophet ﷺ and didn't doubt him, he doubted this treaty, and he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, but aren't we in the right? He didn't like this. Why are we signing this? If we are in the right, why are we signing something that is so unfair to us? And the Prophet ﷺ had them break their ihram at the encouragement and good advice of Salama, by him setting the example of trimming his hair. And they left. Now, when they left, the Prophet ﷺ, when they left, they went down towards Medina. They went back towards Medina. And along the way, the Prophet ﷺ received revelation, which I'm trying to open up to here as we speak, but I will just, if I can't find it, we'll just keep going. It received revelation that was joyful and brought great joy to him. And it was a bit confusing for the companions, but it is something that I think we need to take a great example from. Today we are in a situation where often we are made to feel that we are, it's where it's unfair, where we're not able to fly and do things, and they treat us unfairly at the airport. People maybe look at you funny if you're wearing hijab. Maybe they've yelled at you or spit on you or made you feel unsafe in your own neighborhood, or anything anything that hurt you or made you afraid. And maybe you've gone on the internet and searched for places that told you, actually you don't have to wear hijab, looking for someone who will give you a way out of the hardship that you're going through. But instead of going that direction, go to the direction of the Prophet ﷺ. When after Salat al-Hudaybiyah, and they were in a situation of being humiliated and lowered and hurt and frustrated, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jalla Jalaluhu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah al-Fatah, the beginning of it. And these verses were verses of victory. They were verses of victory. And this is a principle. This is what I want you to understand. That this is a principle. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, when he was speaking to Aisha radiallahu anha, just like there, he was teaching her and us a principle that we are richest when we're giving away. Here, a principle is being taught to us that when we leave aside our honor and dignity and pride, and not dignity so much as pride, our honor and our pride and our place, and we are humbled and we put aside our nafs for something that is greater, there is in this victory. Two kinds of victory. Social and personal. Excuse me. Social and personal. So the verses, the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. So this one it begins with indeed. And you'll find different translations of this. And I'm not translating here. I am only talking about the verses in English. I'm not qualified to translate the Quran word for word. But in the meaning of it, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina, that indeed a great, literally opening for you. Some Qur'ans will say a great triumph. Others will say a conquest. I don't agree with the word conquest here. Here it's a triumph. It's an opening. It's a victory. It's an opportunity. Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Indeed, a great opportunity has been given to you. A great opening has been given to you. Something wonderful has been given to you. Think about that. This is coming to the Prophet ﷺ after this difficulty. And it goes on. لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive for you what you have done of sin, وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ, from before and later, what your earlier sins and your later sins, وَيَتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَيَهْدِيَكَ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا, and will hold for you the blessing that is upon you and guide you on the straight path. This is to the Prophet ﷺ. And then, وَيَنْصِرُكَ اللَّهُ نَصْرًا عَزِيزًا. Most of the Mufassirin of the Quran explain to us that this is a direct message to the Prophet ﷺ, where he's saying to the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and this is the man that we are sending peace and blessings on in this month. He's saying to him, I have forgiven you all that went before and all that went after. And it is after this that the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, the narration of Aisha radiallahu anha, when she tells us that she asked the Prophet ﷺ, why do you stand until your feet are swollen when you know that Allah has forgiven your sins, those that come before and those that come after? And he answers, shouldn't I be a thankful servant? So this is fact. This is not just an idea that, oh, you're forgiven because you're a prophet. This is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that occurred at this very difficult time. And not only are you personally forgiven, excuse me, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be giving you this great victory. Now, what is the great victory for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If you know him and you know him well enough, you know and understand that his great victory is the spread and establishment of Islam on the face of the earth in the hearts and lives and minds of people, and the spread of that. When Islam is established on the face of the earth, this is for the Prophet ﷺ victory. That is how he defines victory. And we see that in all of the du'at and the scholars that came after him, that inherited from him his work. That is how we as Muslims define victory. We define it as the establishment of Islam, our religion, in the hearts and minds and lives, deeds, actions of people. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises this to the Prophet ﷺ. And he said to the companions at this time, I have received to the effect of, I have received something so beautiful, a verse so beautiful that has filled me with so much joy. And he's told them the verses, and they wondered in their hearts about themselves. What about us? Where are we? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued the revelation and said, and this we should all hear and hear deeply, and put it in line with whatever you've gone through, whatever difficulty you faced, whether it's a social pressure or personal difficulty, whether it's a social pressure because you're a Muslim, because you are mutajba, because you walk with the standard of Islam that says, yes, I am a Muslim woman, and that you let yourself be known as a woman of faith, and as such you're facing difficulty, or if it's just personal difficulties, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He is the one, هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين. He is the one who sends sakina. Sakina is a beautiful word that means peace and serenity. So if you think about your heart and the anxiety that can grow in a woman's heart, or a human's heart, but we're all women here, in someone's heart, the anxiety that can grow there. And what is the opposite of that anxiety? People today take drugs to get rid of the anxiety. They drink alcohol to get rid of the anxiety. They eat to get rid of the anxiety. They sleep to get rid of the anxiety. They do so many things to get rid of the anxiety. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that He is the one who sends down calm and peace and restfulness, contentedness and trust. All these words come together in this word sakina. And into the hearts of the believers, al-mu'mineen. Why? لِيَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانِهِمْ. لِيَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَعَ إِيمَانِهِمْ. To increase He gives them this calm, peaceful feeling in order to increase the faith, to add to the faith they already have, more faith. So I want you to think about an incident that happened to you just for a moment, and remember how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to your heart at the moment of a peace. Maybe later you worried yourself, but at the moment you had a sense of calm, and you were able to handle it. You were able to deal with it. You didn't feel happy about it, but you were okay. You were strong. That sakina is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given to you to increase your faith. And one more verse before we go on to the end. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued that. So this sakina that comes down to the heart to increase our faith is لِيُدْخِلَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, to be able to enter into, to send into to heaven the believing men and the believing women, into the heavens under which rivers flow. جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها, a place where the خالدين فيها, to be heaven underneath which rivers flow, everlasting. ويكفر عنهم سيئاتهم, and this sakina, and to forgive you your mistakes and your sins. To forgive you your mistakes. And here, Allah is so generous to the believer. Because I think believers, we don't want to commit sins. We don't want to do a dhanb. We don't want to commit sins. You're a believer, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You wish that you'd never made mistakes. You wish that every day you could do all the good things that you want to do. You wish you weren't selfish, and you wish you weren't lazy, and you wish you were strong, and you wish all those things. And you make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He will, and to يكفر عنهم سيئاتهم, to forgive and wash away and rid us of these mistakes that we're making. وكان ذلك عند الله فوزا عظيما, and this is the greatest success. So what is the turnaround here? If this is the greatest success, we learn something. We learn that our greatest success comes when we humble ourselves. Our greatest success comes when we leave our nafs aside. Our greatest success comes even if we are humbled by someone else. And we move on. And we move on. And we're okay. And we find a way to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and find strength in Him. To do whatever we have to do. It doesn't mean if someone throws something through the windows of your house, you're going to sue him and you're going to call the police. You're not going to be dumb, of course. But you're certainly, but you're not going to become full of anxiety and upset. And oh no, should I claim my Islam? Oh no, should I wear hijab? Oh no, should I pray in public? Oh no. The funniest thing happened to me before all this election Islamophobia. I was talking to a very elderly group of Christians, and this woman came up to me and she said, I want to ask you another question, please. And I said, sure, go ahead. And she asked me something else about prayer. She didn't fully understand our postures of prayer. And I answered a few of her questions. And then she said, but you only do that when you're home, right? I said, well, no. I mean, if we, depends on life, where I happen to be. And she said, and somehow in the conversation I said, I mean, for example, if I'm in the airport and I have to pray, I'm going to pray. She said, oh, but then you sit on the chair, don't you? And I said, no. And she said, I said, I guess I could, she was just like, her eyes opened really big and her mouth opened a little bit and she was just horrified. And I said, I guess I probably freak a few people out. She said, oh, I'm sure you do. Oh, you, in a very Minnesota way. Oh, don't you know? Don't you know? You do. Don't you know you do? Or something like that. It was really cute. And yeah, maybe I do. And so what am I risking there? I'm risking people looking down on me because I'm praying. There is in that fawzan azima. That's the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message to us. That even in the lowest of the lows, in a time when we might be feeling like a failure in a personal thing, or society like we're never going to get back up again, like you've lost the privilege you thought you had, and you're just frustrated maybe and don't quite know where to go. This is the place where if you find that sakina in your heart, you find that peace in your heart, you can be one who has the greatest of victories. The greatest of victories, where instead of defining victory by obvious success of this dunya, you define victory by Allah's success. How does Allah define success? And subhanAllah, we find the next year, the Prophet ﷺ will open Mecca, where Mecca itself, hayiftah, it's going to open. Mecca itself will enter Islam. The victory will come in a tangible way. But the verses were revealed here when the victory wasn't tangible. But it was still there, and that's the point. The victory is there whether it's tangible to you or not. And in this month of the Prophet ﷺ, I ask of you, and let's ask of ourselves, that as we're saying, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, as we are increasing our peace and blessings to the Prophet ﷺ, that we learn from him how to think and how to look at things. And we learn to look at what we give away as what we have. The more we give away, the richer we are. And that we learn that in hardship and difficulty and humbleness and unfairness is sometimes the greatest reward, a forgiveness of sin, a promise of Jannah, and fawzan azima, the greatest success. Inshallah. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and open your hearts and strengthen you and let you face hardships that you see with ease, and open your hearts to generosity and open our hearts to generosity, and that we may be generous with our money and our time and our talents and our hopes and our dreams and our forgiveness as well. Ameen. And imitate the Prophet ﷺ in all of his ways, and at least for the rest of this month, in these two ways. Ameen. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Alhamdulillah, thank you.